So we get Dr. Esperance. What's up, Esperance?
I'm good. How
What's
are
up
you?
with the yellow?
The
I
yellow.
ask you, like, what's up with the yellow? Yeah.
You don't like yellow?
No.
I love yellow. I love bright colors. I'm dark, and so it brings out my skin complexion. I'm dark, right? No? Well, I love my skin tone, so bright colors bring out my complexion.
Oh, but you must see her emojis. They're so, like, nothing reflective of who she is. So I even wonder, but it's all good. So it's good to have you here. And I think anybody that has heard your name basically knows what you're all about. But today, we just want to see the other side of Esperance. And it's going to be interesting. That's one thing, because I'm going to be learning a lot about you. If anything, I must say, I think I posted this on Facebook and said your bio is shocking. It's really, really shocking. You've done a lot of things. And
Thank you so much.
the thing that comes to mind is, what don't we know about you? Because I know you're a health advocate. I know you're a medical doctor. I know you are a poet. And I know you're a professional speaker. And you also train speakers.
Yes.
So what don't we know about you? 3 things that we don't know about you.
3 things that you don't know, but promise you're not going to judge me after this.
No, we're not.
You know? Okay, so the first thing is that I love a man in a suit. I think that is the most attractive thing in the entire world. A man in a suit is my thing.
Are you for real?
I'm serious.
What about it that attracts you to a man in a suit?
I don't know, it's just
Power
very manly and power and confidence. I don't know, I just love it. I'm even blushing.
Okay. Man in a suit, number 1.
A man in a suit, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think people don't know about me, is I'm very sensitive.
Is it?
I'm very, very sensitive, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive and I hate confrontation.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm very, very sensitive. Yeah.
And the third one?
The third one is, you know, when we were little and we used to like dip our bread in tea
Yes.
when we were eating.
Yeah.
I still do that. Until this very day, I feel like you cannot enjoy your bread and tea if you don't dip it in.
No, but then the bread is in the tea.
And that's
like,
the best part.
Oh, no. Esperance. Doctor. Esperance. Okay, but that's interesting. This is, I think, 3 things that I don't think most people actually know about you, unless they personally stay with you.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you are known throughout Twitter, for those that either follow you or for those that have been following your journey, when it comes to you're basically advocating for better health for the nation.
That's right.
And I was asking myself, you know, because when I finally got a hold of you and got a hold of your age, and I'm asking myself, at your age, what made you fall in love with medicine? Because it doesn't look like you. I don't know whether you've gotten this. You don't look like a doctor. You know, there's a doctor look and you don't look like
Is
a
that
doctor.
a good thing or bad thing? I don't know. What's a doctor supposed to look like?
Nothing like you.
Now the
like-
cameraman's now showing my shoes and everything, and people would be like, they agree.
Yeah.
What is a doctor supposed to look like?
I don't, just not like you. Like, okay, like, that's what I'm saying, not like you. But what made you fall in love with medicine? Like, how did you get into the whole thing of, like, I want to become a doctor?
I've always known that I wanted to be a doctor. I think since I was about 10 years old. At that point in time, I used to say, okay, I'm going to become a cardiovascular surgeon. I didn't know what it was. It was just a nice fancy word that I liked.
Yeah.
And then I think that sort of stayed with me. And then I actually fell in love with it. I fell in love with biology. And I loved the way the body works. And as time passed, I decided, well, there was nothing else that I wanted to do but medicine. Not necessarily because of helping people. That came later on.
Okay.
I'll tell you the honest truth. I fell in love with medicine because I'm fascinated by blood and dead bodies and pus and all those things. That's the honest truth. That's the truth.
But you're brutal with the truth.
That's the truth. Helping people came later along the way. But I was fascinated.
But now the amazing thing, okay, you became a doctor.
Yeah.
Obviously after studying for 7 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
6 years at
6
UNAM, yeah.
6 years at UNAM.
Yeah.
So you then decide to go to the north. Out of all the places, like, I'm asking,
Why the North?
why the north? I mean, you could have practiced here in Bindu.
When I was in my 5th year, I had some practice in the north at Onanjoko Hospital where I'm currently working, and I loved it. I fell in love with it immediately. I think the aspect of me helping people, not that you can't help people at Katra Hospital, Central Hospital, not at all, but I felt like my particular purpose and mission would be better accomplished in such a setting. I think I felt that they would need me more. I like to go into spaces whereby I can advocate for something and speak for something, and my voice can be clearly heard, and I think Onanjoko Hospital was that for me, and so that's why I decided to ship myself there.
And I'm talking about Onanjoko Hospital. I think about a couple of days ago, obviously, I think more than anything else, you've been dealing with this particular matter, the coronavirus, and there was a suspect that somebody was suspected to have gotten the virus that side. What was the reaction like, when you, as the doctors and the nurses and the medical personnel, they picked this up? Because I think we just said, we're like, yo.
Yeah. Personally, I had absolutely no contact with that interaction, that person, that patient. I literally found out about it the next morning when people were talking about it, and then it came out in the newspaper, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know this happened. And then I went and found out what exactly had happened. I think, but generally that morning, everybody was in panic mode because everybody was like, well, we didn't even think it was in Namibia. How did it get here already? And so I think generally everybody's feelings towards this has been anxiety and fear, and it doesn't change because you're a health professional, because I think people expect that you're equally scared. I think people expect that, because you're a medical doctor or you're a nurse, you have this I don't care feel to you. No, it's frightening, it's terrifying, and I don't think anybody would want to be put in a place even whereby they have to be at first contact with these people, because it's not a nice place to be in, and it's terrifying.
We've been saying medical doctor, keynote speaker, poet, health advocate, speaking coach. Which one still give you the shivers? Like, this.
Medicine. I think there are times when I literally look at my name badge and I'm like, I can't believe this is a reality, especially because of everything that it took for me to actually get that title. And I think sometimes people don't understand, and a lot of the times, especially after graduating, I had a lot of medical students from Namibia and also studying overseas that texted me and reached out and DM'd me, and they're like, how do you do it? Because it's just too much.
But what is so much about, is it studying, is it the practical? Because like when somebody says I'm studying medicine, we all get scared. It's like, yo, medicine. Like, yo, no, man. Why study medicine?
I can speak for the University of Namibia where I studied. I don't know about anybody else, anywhere else, but where I studied, one of the things they're trying to do is make sure that by the time you leave those gates, you're a competent doctor, that you can see a patient, that you can treat them, that you're competent in that setting. And I think that it's a very good thing. It's amazing because you come out competent, but at the same time it takes its toll on you, especially physically and mentally, because sometimes the things required of you, you're like, I'm just one human being and I can't do all this. So it takes its toll on you. I think mentally, emotionally, physically, it's not an easy thing to do. And so when I look at that, I still literally get emotional because I'm like, wow, I can't believe it.
But what are those things on a day-to-day basis that just let you down? You feel like, yo, I wish I could change this. I wish I could improve this.
In the medical field, particularly.
Yes.
Whew, there's a lot.
But the one thing that you're like, if I had a magic wand, if I had $1 billion, I'd definitely do this.
I'm going to cheat on the question, so I'm not going to mention one particular thing, but I'm going to say quality health, because I'm a firm believer that every single person, irrespective of your social background, socioeconomic standing, I believe that we are all entitled to the same quality of health, which unfortunately is not what is happening right now. And it has been a source of a lot of pain and strife for a lot of people, because I genuinely believe that health and humanity go hand in hand. And if you're not giving people quality health, you're literally dehumanizing them. And so if I could take a wand, that is the main thing I would do. I know it encompasses a lot, but in that's the one thing that I fight for with my heart and soul.
Wow. So you solve everything that you believe should be solved?
Yes, for the people, to make sure that every single person has access to quality health. Making sure that just because you are from Havana doesn't mean that you don't get access to the medication that you deserve, or just because you're from Havana doesn't mean that your child doesn't get that operation that they need to save their life, because it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Health is health, and health is humanity.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, poetry. Where does this fit in? Like,
my love. That's my first love.
Your first love?
That's my first love.
So why did you not just remain doing poetry? Why did you end up having to now go into health if this was your first love?
Well, because I'm a firm believer of multiple streams of income. Number one, let me put that out there, okay? Yeah. I love poetry. Yeah. I'm passionate about poetry, but I also make money from poetry. So I've come to a place whereby, yes, I encourage people to follow their dreams and everything, but I'm always very practical also. And being a practical person, I encourage multiple streams of income because your passion allows you to have this. I think way back when, with our grandparents and great grandparents, they would tell us, well, no, just focus on your degree, focus on one thing, let everything else is null and void and it doesn't matter. But I think we're building a new generation of people, young people, whereby they understand the importance of not only following your passion because it brings you joy, but following your passion because, well, you can actually make money from your passion.
And talking about money, you obviously were in Zimbabwe, you were in the States. How was that experience? You know, how did the audience receive you?
Oh, it's an interesting...
Two different parts of the world.
It's an interesting question. Zimbabwe, South Africa, and then the United States of America. So my last stop was the USA. Wow. I was in Cleveland. And I was very excited for all three of them, but I think my experience was very, very different, and I'll be honest. I loved the crowd in South Africa. I think they are so receptive to poetry and word and lyricists. So that for me was absolutely phenomenal. Because obviously the way your first crowd receives you leaves that mark in your mind. Like, okay, so this is how they would like me. Even if I were to move to South Africa, this is how they would receive me. Zimbabwe was okay. I think in terms of being receptive towards poetry and spoken word, I wouldn't say that... I don't think it's an area quite taken to an extent that I do, whereby you will have a whole artist come into a country just for poetry. So I think that's an area that would probably need to be developed a little bit more. And then in the United States of America, obviously this was so exciting for me, crossing the international borders. At first, the very first day was very interesting because I remember going on stage and they asked me, firstly, I identify myself as a socially conscious poet. And so I like to tackle issues faced by Africa and outside of Africa that people don't want to talk about. And so one of the things that I spoke about then that was prompted by the fact that when I got on stage, I asked people to guess which country they thought I was from. And about 90% of the people said Africa. And I was very offended by this because I asked them a second time and a third time, and I said, which country am I from? And they said Africa. And what boggled my mind was these were Black Americans, African Americans,
and from Africa,
and my country is Africa. Okay, and so I felt the need to educate because I believe that as a poet, my responsibility is to tell the truth, and if I don't tell the truth, then I failed, and then I'm not a poet. Because there are a lot of people that throw words together, but if you can't say something that people have not heard or in a way that they've not heard it, you're not doing anything. And so I performed twice, first night, second night. The second night when I went on stage, I erased everything that I had planned to do and I did a piece on Africa. And this was me trying to educate them on what Africa is, on what Namibia is, because I believe that was my role. And who knows, maybe I was placed in that place to educate them about how beautiful Namibia is and how talented we truly are.
Now, I'm going to ask you to do that piece right now. I mean, this is what we're here for. Educators. What is Namibia?
Okay. No, I'm not clearing my throat because I'm going to do the piece. No, that was just me mocking you guys. I'm not doing the piece.
No, come on.
I'm not doing the piece. I'm really not doing the piece.
You're really going to deny us this opportunity.
I'm denying you the opportunity.
Well, at least give us something. I mean, people are wondering. I mean, you're a medical doctor and she says she's a poet and we're not hearing a single poem from you.
Really?
That can't be right.
But I was told that I speak very poetically.
No,
doesn't that count?
No.
It doesn't count.
No. Read something from you.
Okay. All right.
Take it away.
Would you let me see beneath your beautiful? An automated response caused by the stimuli called your love. You see, at the moment that I felt like I was broken beyond repair, I would try and cover it up with makeup, but the foundation did not make up for my broken foundation. They would tell me that I was just too hairy, so the pain of the blade on my legs as I try to rip away the hair follicles left nothing but wounds. So dearly beloved, forgive me for not allowing you to see beneath my beautiful. I used to rap, but then realized that my role model became Nicki Minaj, and as far as I can remember, the cross did not have a pink wig on it. So would you let me see beneath your beautiful? And automated response and automated response and automated response. At the moment that I felt like I was broken beyond repair, I would try and cover it up with makeup, but the foundation did not make up for my broken foundation.
But somebody that we are in studio with is Esperance, or Dr. Esperance Luvindao, and she just gave us a piece. What is it all about? Like, that was just deep. Like, I needed to take a breather because it was so intense. Like, you get into this zone. What's that all about?
I think anything to do with performance art literally involves just a whole nother you. And I think any artist that has invested in their art will tell you that you just become a whole new person. And there's a certain comfort that goes in that, whereby you don't care who's watching,
Yes.
you don't care what they're thinking. All you have is your art and you must deliver. And that's where I get into.
That's where you get into.
That's where I get into.
No, but it's pretty impressive. Like, really, really impressive.
Thank you.
And another impressive thing that you decided to start was the First Step at a Time initiative.
Yes, one step at a time.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
And I picked this up, and this was like the key reason why I was trying to get a hold of you for the past 5-6 months was because of
You're
this.
still emphasizing.
No, I need to emphasize because it just shows the determination that we have at Fresh trying to get people like of yourselves right here. When I read about it, obviously trying to raise money for a good cause. Now, for somebody that has never heard about it, take us through how did you birth this initiative?
Okay, so one step at a time is exactly that. What the name says, one step at a time. It's become better known to people as the $5 campaign.
Yes.
This I started last year, and this was during my work in the north, because I'm currently practicing at Onanjoka Hospital, which is a public hospital.
Yes.
And one of the things that I noticed was that we constantly run out of medication. So the most crucial medication, I remember there was even a point in time whereby we didn't have pethidine, and we literally had to give patients what we had at that time, which was a level 1 pain medication,
Yeah.
which according to the World Health Organization is the lowest, absolute lowest pain medication you can give anybody.
Yes.
And this touched me because I thought to myself, well, if this was me in this position, I would feel abandoned, I would feel dehumanized. And I went home and I called the nurse that was attending to that case, and I said, look, how much does this painkiller cost? And she told me, and it wasn't that much. So I said, okay, you know what, let me pay for this from my pocket. And afterwards I realized, well, this happens all the time. So if I can create some sort of initiative whereby whenever we are out of stock of medication and essential medical basically aids in the hospital, then we could take from this fund that we've created and help pay for it. And that is basically how the One Step at a Time initiative was based. So it's based on the fact that there are no drugs in the hospital, and when there are no drugs, what do we do about it? Do we send a 7-year-old asthmatic child with no Beclotide inhaler because we are not sufficiently stocked as we should? Or do we say, okay, well, look, we can pull some money from this fund while we're advocating for better? Because if you look at it, I think one of the things that a lot of people have said is that, well, we shouldn't be having this issue in the first place. Because when we talk about quality health, every single patient should have access to the right medication. And we should make sure that this is the standard of healthcare in the country. But my view is that, well, while we're advocating for this, do we continue letting these patients suffer because we are not doing what we're meant to do? Or do we assist them while we're trying to work out a better plan to ensure that the state system fixes itself, so to speak?
I can hear you talking so poetic. But with any initiative that you start, there are going to be those that support, and there are going to be those that say, you know, your detractors, to say the least. And I think I've picked up, even when I look at whenever you post something on Twitter, there are those that will be like, oh wow, she's doing an amazing thing, and there are those that are like, who does she think she is? I mean, like, why are you trying to take on the government's work? I mean, they should do that. And how do you take that? I mean, you are here trying to help, and there are those that are like, who do you think you are?
Okay, I think one of the main things that I always tell people is that when you know what you're trying to do and you know your purpose, nothing that anybody can say can change what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I think that's why we have people falling off in terms of their calling and their purpose, because they don't know why they're doing it in the first place. And so somebody can come along and say something and it totally just switches you off, and you're like, well, people don't support me. Why should I continue doing this? I didn't start this for the person that's sitting at home in Klein Windhoek, access to a grade 3 level medical aid. I started this for the Namibian that can't afford basics like Captopril for hypertension that costs about $22. I started this for that mother that can't afford betadine ointment to dress her daughter's wounds and comes back to the hospital with maggots in her daughter's wounds because we are not providing what we need to provide. And so my question constantly is to people that say, well, the government should be doing this, why are you taking their job? I think it comes back to the whole aspect of when you're on the ground and you get to interact with these patients on a daily basis, you realize that, well, if nobody's going to do something, I'm going to do it. And that is not to shed any bad light on anybody else, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do because I know what is right and I know the quality of health that people deserve. And so I think my purpose with this has been clear from the very beginning: save lives. And one thing that I always tell people is, well, you might not necessarily agree with the whole subscription whereby people pay $5 per month and we put that into a sort of piggy bank account. But one thing you cannot disagree with is the results. Because to date, we've saved over 700, and that was the statistics of last month. So to date, we've saved probably over 750 Namibians. And so whether you agree with the technique or not, we are saving lives, and that's what matters.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. Talking about incredible things, you're also a business lady to it. Like, that's what I'm saying, that your resume, we can spend the whole night talking about it. But being a business lady, having started 2 businesses that did not succeed,
yes.
Currently on your 3rd,
yes.
What lessons have you learned about business?
Firstly, be equipped in the area of your passion. One of my major flaws was I'm very good at coming up with business ideas. I can come up with a business idea on the spot. You could tell me what you're passionate about and I can say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? But I didn't know how to execute. And that was my problem. So I have this $1 million idea, but if you don't know how to execute it and to sustain it, then it's just going to flop and fail. And so I think that's what happened with the very first 2. With the current one, it is a whole entity. So it's called Luvindao Trading Enterprise with multiple subsidiaries. One of the subsidiaries is Speakers Globe, which is my public speaking company, under which we've trained the likes of people like Sam Shivute and other well-known Namibian speakers, as well as a lot of corporates. So a huge portion of my clientele are managers, CEOs. I'm currently trading a few people in managerial positions in First National Bank, as well as PwC, also PricewaterhouseCoopers. And so my clientele is a lot in terms of speakers, corporates, but then also your non-corporates and your everyday individuals that want to become more eloquent. And one of the things that I tackle a lot is voice projection, mastery, pronunciation, vocabulary, and all of those. And so that is just one subsidiary. And so there are multiple other subsidiaries, but I truly, truly believe that this one is working so much better because I have made a conscious decision to educate myself. So you want to be a business owner, how are you learning? There are other speaking coaches out there. Are you learning from them? What have they done well? What have they done wrong? How are you going to make sure you don't fall in the same pits? And then also a part that people don't really like to hear is the formal education part of it, which I don't like to negate because currently I'm studying towards my master's in business administration. And when people hear that, they always say, how does medicine and business go together? But because of my passion for business and the business I'm running, I must make sure that I educate myself in my field of expertise so that I can offer better to the community and confidently say, you know what, my name is Esperance Luvindao, I own Luvindao Trading Enterprise, and we are profitable.
Before we get to 9, I tell you, time just goes by so fast. Like, I don't know where the time goes. But, you know, as they say, all good things got to come to an end. But before we close this all off, I was just blown away. Like, we were speaking off air about how much you value education and you also touched upon it before we went off air, was to simply say, if you're gonna do a particular business, you need to educate yourself. Yes. But besides that, why are you so enticed by education? Because you're doing multiple things at the same time.
Enticed is a very beautiful word to use.
No, seriously. Are you bored? You have nothing to do?
I'm not bored. No, I'm not bored. Yeah. I love educating myself because I believe that it plays a huge role with confidence. when you are educated in a particular field, it allows you the confidence to be able to stand amongst men and women and boldly declare something. So if I were to say, okay, look, I'm a health advocate, one of the reasons why my voice has become so loud is because I'm not just speaking from passion, but I'm speaking plus I have experience in that area. I've worked there. I have education in that area. So if you're going to be a public speaking coach or a public speaker or a motivational speaker, as we have so many of them today, what are your not necessarily qualifications, but what have you done to improve yourself in that area? For some, it might be YouTube videos. I'm not saying that everybody's meant to go and get a degree or a master's in that particular area, but that aspect of self-improvement, I think, is one that lacks, because especially with motivational speakers, and I myself am one, but we get this wrong all the time because we pump people with this mentality, you can do it, but no one tells you how to do it. So how to do it sometimes means getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and saying, well, I want to be a speaker. I'm going to practice in the mirror until I get my pronunciation right at 4 o'clock every single day in the morning. Or I want to be a model, so I'm going to spend time with models, or I'm going to look up models on YouTube every single day, at least put in about an hour and a half to try and learn and better myself. Because if you're not doing that, you're not serious.
That's deep. That's really deep. So it's like the 10,000 hour theory. Put your 10,000 hours. I think I put my 10 years in this game. I should really just be getting paid accordingly. I'm playing with you. A younger you, what would you tell them about love, life, and the world?
Love. Wow. To my younger self, I would say don't fall in love. I'm joking. I'm kidding. No negative vibes. To the younger me, I would say be open to love, be open to experiences. I think as human beings, a lot of the times we negate the fact that life is so short and we think we have time. Now, I'm going to do this in 10 years' time. I'm going to do this in 15 years' time. And then someone passes away and you're like, oh, life actually is short. And then time passes and then you get back to your old self. I'll do this in 10 years' time, 15 years' time. So I think especially with the aspect of love and all these things that people talk about, yes, I've been hurt before, but it doesn't mean that love doesn't exist. Yes, you failed in that particular area at work. It doesn't mean that you're not good at it. Yes, you didn't succeed with that business. It doesn't mean that you're not meant to be a business person. And I think these are things that we need to talk about, because as human beings, something happens and you just shut off as if your whole world has ended, not knowing that bigger and better opportunities and love actually awaits you.
And about life?
Life. I thought I summarized it all in one.
Why do you have to do it like that?
About life, I will say very simply, believe in yourself, believe in your purpose, believe in your dreams and what you want to achieve, because trust me, people will tell you cannot do it, and they will keep telling you that. And if you don't know or believe that you can do it, eventually they will start getting to you and you will just stop. So if you know what you're meant to do, if you have found your purpose, it's important to believe in it without having people pump you up all the time, knowing that I can do it even if someone doesn't clap for me on Twitter, knowing that I'm a health advocate even if the Minister of Health doesn't clap for me. You need to know who you are without the applause. And for me, that is the biggest thing I've learned about life.
And the last thing that I always ask every individual that comes here is, who do you want to thank for taking you through this journey?
I want to thank Mufaro for having me on the interview. I would like to thank my dad. I love my dad so much. He is my biggest inspiration and the reason that I'm here. So my dad is my absolute, yes, he's my biggest blessing. And my family, who've been very supportive. Going throughout medical school, people did constantly tell me, Esperance, you just need to focus on medicine. Stop doing everything else. But my family said, you know what? You're passing. You're doing well. You can do both of them. You can do all three of them. You can do all four of them. And I appreciate that, because not everybody has that family support. And then God. Yes. So God, my dad, my family, absolute 3 top blessings in my life. Yes.
Esperance, it's been worth the 6 months wait, I must say. Thank you so much for honoring this date.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. And we wish you all the best, especially with the One Step at a Time initiative. I think it's going to change the world, not only Namibia, but the world. I think they haven't heard yet. And all the best with your studies, because I think I've lost count all the other things that you want to study, but we know you're going to do great. From my side, catch this interview, and I'm going to try and live up to this promise. That's Monday or latest Tuesday on the YouTube channel, Mufaro Nesongano. You can check it out and just get to hear her again and watch how passionate she is. I think more than anything else, that's what we picked up right here. And as I always say, peace, love, and happiness.